So speaking of money, I think that's an important topic as well, something that you talk a lot about as well. You talk about getting people into debt and then helping them get out of debt.
Yep.
I think personal finance myself is really important, and continuing to improve in how I invest and how I earn and all those things. So can you talk a little bit about what you've been talking with your clients about? Because I think some of the things that you talk about are really basic and simple, but also really, really valuable.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things, you just said it. When I'm your mortgage guy, I'm putting you into the largest debt of your life. And I consider it my responsibility to help you get out of that debt as quickly as you can. Okay, now whether that means paying off your mortgage earlier than 30 years, 30 years is a long period of time. So what I try to do with my clients is just, number one, bring about awareness that 30 years is going to fly by. Okay, 15 years is going to fly by. I can remember yesterday my daughter was born. I can remember holding Allie for the first time thinking, what am I about ready? What did I just do?
Yeah.
Not knowing how I'm going to support this family, not knowing a lot of things. That was yesterday, Zach.
Close enough that you can still even want to tear up thinking about it. You can
I can feel it.
I can see that you feel it. It's crazy.
So, I take that same emotion and that same feeling to my clients, that 15 years is going to fly by like this. What I didn't have 15 years ago was a mentor, a real estate professional, a mortgage lender, a financial planner going, Dan, set aside 10% every single month. Set aside X number of dollars and put it in your 401k and your IRA. Buy an investment home every other year. Buy a home, live in it for 1 year, rent it out. Buy another owner-occupied home, live in it for a year, rent it out. Build a portfolio. I didn't figure it out until I was about 35 years of age. So that's been 10 years. And over the last 10 years, I've had to make up for lost time. So it's been a passion of mine, and it is a passion of mine now, to teach my clients how to come out the other side of home ownership in a better financial position. So part of that is there's a big gap right now in the U.S. relative to financial literacy. So I commend you for having me on and talking about this. People need to understand the fundamentals of financial literacy, the fundamentals, things that you need to be aware of that will help you come out the other side of home ownership, whether that's 15 years, 20 years, 30 years from now. I focus on 15 years because it's so relevant to me.
Yeah, sometimes you get lost thinking too far out. Even 15 years can feel like a long
It does, but I mean, I'm sitting here as a 45-year-old man going, 15 years it happened like this.
Yeah.
You know? So my little daughter is now getting ready to drive.
That's crazy.
In January. So that's crazy. Now, and I can vividly remember clearly over the last 15 years. It's still in my memory, and it hasn't been too long. So the financial decisions that you make today impact your financial situation tomorrow. Just remember that. So there's 4 or 5 basic fundamentals that I teach my clients. We could do a whole episode on this. We're not right now, but you can go to budgetwithdan.com. It's free. You don't have to put your name in and your email. They're all PDF. Just click on it and you can download, save the PDF. But there's a financial awareness test. It's 15 questions that really helps you better understand where you're at now relative to where you want to be when you retire. Super healthy. I fill that out twice a year, and I know you do too. The second thing is down at the bottom of that, it's from The Millionaire Next Door, the best-selling investment book, The Millionaire Next Door. And it's where are you now? And it helps you figure out, are you on track numerically? So there's a few things, some resources there. And then there's a 12-minute video. And I know both you and I subscribe to these ideas, the 6 steps to financial wellness, to financial wealth. And so I would encourage you just to watch that. There's a ton of helpful information in there, but that's a big passion project of mine to teach younger kids, because I now have a high schooler, and I teach 1 semester a year at the University of Washington, and just get this information out to people. So again, they can come out the other side of home ownership in a better financial position as a result of our relationship.
Yeah. Can you speak to those fundamentals just real briefly? You didn't really want to get into it. I don't think this is necessarily the time to spend 20, 30, 40 minutes talking about it, but can you give us those 5
Let's do 4.
fundamentals?
The 4 core financial fundamentals. Number 1, have a reserve account, have a reserve fund. Typically, if you go to budgetwithdan.com, you can see my budgeting spreadsheet and you can download it. Basically, you add up all of your expenses every single month. Take a bank statement from a month ago and go, okay, here, I spent all this money on water, utilities, electric bill, cell phone, rent, whatever it might be, car payments, student loans, add them all up.
Yep.
Let's say it adds up to $4,000 a month. Times that by 3. So a good emergency fund is 3 months of your total living expenses.
Yep.
Okay, so that would be what? $12,000. Okay, so
There you go.
once you have $12,000 saved up, for example, step 1, you've accomplished that. That's great.
Woo.
Step number 2 is to call a guy like Zach and buy a house. Buy your first house. Buy a house and live in it. Now, this is if you go to my Instagram, I teach you a couple different ways where you can become a millionaire real estate. You can become a millionaire through real estate.
Yep.
Buy a home, live in it for a year, rent it out, buy another home, owner occupied, live in it for a year, rent it out. Do that 5, 6, 7 times. 6, 7 years later, you're a multimillionaire. You have a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. Okay? So step number 2 is buy a home and live in it. Okay? You can buy a home with as little as 3% down. In some areas you can buy with 0 down, but right now you can buy a home with as little as 3% down. You can get a friend to house hack. If you don't think you can afford it, or you don't want to afford a $3,000 a month mortgage payment, for example, you can rent out a room for $500. I did that when I was younger. My first condo, that's what I did.
Yep. I rent out my basement. It's real.
Yep.
I still rent out my basement. I've
Yeah.
got 3 kids.
There you go.
It works.
So emergency fund, number 1. Number 2, buy a house.
Do you have
real
to buy?
estate.
Do you have to buy a house every year?
If you want to. There's some people that are like, you know what? We just really don't want to do that. We want to buy our own house and live in it for a while. That's fine. To each their own. There's other ways to make money. But if you really want to invest in real estate, if you say, listen, my income probably isn't going to go way up. I'm not entrepreneurial, but I would really like to build a better financial life for my family. That's the easiest way.
Yep.
Buy a home, live in it for a year,
Yep.
get tenants to cover the mortgage or make a little bit of money on them, do it again. We can teach you that plan, both you and I. We help
Yep.
clients with that. That's one way.
Yep.
The other way, if you just say, hey, I just want to live in a house. I want to own a house. Great. That's step number 2. Step number 3 then, if you're going to take that route, step number 3, make sure every single month you're maxing out your IRA and your 401k. That's going to be approximately, between the two of them, $26,000 a year max. Okay? So make sure you're maxing out your IRA and your 401k.
Yep.
If your employer, especially if your employer matches, it's free money.
Oh, yeah.
Do it. Okay? And then step number 4 is invest in the stock market. Okay? Invest in the stock market. And that's something that over the last 10 years, I have become more vulnerable, more trusting of my financial planner, and I've surrendered to my coaches, and just everything that's left over every single month, I give to my financial planner.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I forget who said this. Could have been Einstein, but he said, compounded interest is the 8th wonder of the world. It's the most valuable thing that we have at our disposal in the United States of America, and it's the truth. So let me recap. Number 1, emergency fund.
Emergency fund.
3 months of your total household expenses, living expenses saved up. Number 2, buy a home and live in it.
Buy a house.
Buy a house. Number 3, max out your 401k and IRAs. If you can't max them out, contribute as much as you can to them.
Yep.
And then number 4, invest everything that's left over into the stock market. And you get to a point in your life where you can do all 4 of those, you're well on your way. And retiring well off is not that far off.
Takeaway.
You're getting your money to multiply. People say that all the time. They talk to me about money, and they talk to me about mortgage and real estate. And younger kids will ask me, "Man, Dan, you own these houses and you have this money in the stock market. How do you do it?" I have taught my money to grow. I train my money. I don't do anything. I don't invest in anything. I don't try not to spend my money on things that don't go up in value.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being on here, and make sure you guys go and subscribe to Dan's YouTube channel.